Judge, we are live streaming on YouTube and we're ready to go on Comcast when you are.
All right, I think we're ready. Steve, I'm waiting on your go on both Comcast and
We're ready.
okay, we're on both. Okay. All right. We'll call to order the McCracken County Fiscal Court meeting September 14, 2020, 5 p.m. Video teleconference. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Bartleman.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Parker.
Here.
And Judge Clymer.
Here. All right, Commissioner Bartleman, will you offer our prayer, please?
Here. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the blessings of this day. We thank you for the opportunity we have to serve this county. We pray be with us as we make decisions to make this a better community for all who live here. Father, we pray for our first responders, for all those who put their lives on the line to make life safe for all of us. Father, we just pray for them and continue to give them safety as they perform that important duty. We just ask you to be with us day by day. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, will you stand and join me in the pledge, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first we have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So made.
Second. Can I ask a question about the consent agenda?
Go ahead.
We added on there the new building inspector. Steve, did you take applications for that, or was that just a normal appointment since he has so much experience in the county?
Did not take applications on that. That was an internal promotion of a qualified employee.
Right. He's been with the county quite a while.
Since 1999.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. That's all I wanted to. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion on consent? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Budget transfers, Madam Treasurer.
It is ordered that the necessary cash transfers in the amount of $361,319.36 be made in order to pay county bills and payroll approved September 14th, 2020.
So made.
Okay.
Motion second, any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Accounts payable.
It is ordered to approve the voucher claims register from August 24th, 2020 to September 14th, 2020 to show county bills in the amount of $1,454,244.85 were paid.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Discussion items on 4A in McCracken County Public Library. I see we have our librarian here with us this evening. Hello, Ms. Byer.
Good evening, everyone.
How's your day?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, good.
Great.
What do you got for us this evening?
Well, thank you for having us. I am on the call with our Library Board President of Trustees, Rachel Norton.
Oh,
And-
hello, Ms. Norton.
Hello there, I'm unmuted now.
All right, all right.
So our board did vote and accept the compensating tax rate for 2020. So those numbers are for real estate, 6.1 cents per $100 valuation. For personal property, 7.91 cents per $100, and motor vehicles, 5 cents. That's the compensating rate. And for reference, the real estate rate, that is the same as we took in 2018 and 2019. For personal property, the rate this year is a little down. Last year, we took 8.41.
Okay.
So all of those rates are the compensating rate?
Correct. We took the compensating rate, and again, that was 6.1 for real estate, 7.91 for personal property, and then 5 for motor vehicles.
All right, good. Any discussion on that?
I'd like to say thank you for keeping it the same and lowering it on the personal property, Susan.
Thank you for that. We appreciate it.
I always, whenever I get an opportunity, like to blow the library horn. We have just an outstanding library with the librarian, Ms. Byer, and the board, and Ms. Norton heading the operation. So it's something to really brag about, I think.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. And if y'all are welcome, it's going to be a stimulating conversation this evening. Y'all are welcome to stay on, or if you've got other things to do, we'll understand that too.
Thank you.
All right. McCracken County Extension Service. Who is that?
I'm here, Judge. It's Robert Tasham with the University of Kentucky Extension Service. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, outstanding. Our board voted to keep the same rate as we did for last year, so they did not take the compensating rate. They're going to keep their old rate for personal property to be 4.0870 cents per $100. And personal property is 11.0483 cents per $100. And motor vehicle, that never changes. It's 1.29 cents per $100. If I need to repeat those, I'm more than happy to.
Now, I understood you say you put both the 4.0870 and the 11.0483 is personal. One of those is real.
Yeah, the first one is real. The 4.0870, that's real property.
All right.
Is it Miss? I'm sorry.
Fashion rhymes with fashion. You're fine. You're fine.
So you're keeping the rate the same, but was your compensating rate lower or higher?
No, it was higher.
Okay.
Considerably. It was around 4.5, and personal property, I believe, was 11.7 or 11.8. And they just felt like, no, we're doing fine. We don't need to do that.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Cool. Thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome.
I've never understood why you're, and I know the state sets this and people have tried to explain it to me and I can't get it through my head of why your personal property tax is so much higher than the real estate. Usually they're closer together, but I'm not asking you to try to explain it again, but that comes up every year. And I never understood how they calculate that when your tax base is the same as our tax base. And I just never understood that, but I won't ask you to try to explain it because I still don't understand why.
I appreciate that. I do. And I wish that I could explain that. But I would certainly need somebody from the university to be able to do that. And I'm more than happy to get somebody to do that at some point. If you'd like, Commissioner Bartleman, I'm happy to do that.
I don't understand why your compensating rate would be higher and not lower based upon all the information of the reassessments, but I'm not going to ask you to explain that math either.
Okay.
In theories, it just doesn't make sense to me either. I'm with Mr. Bartleman on some of that, but
I'm working on understanding what 10,000th of a penny is. That's stretching her on out there. Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. Any discussion about that? Anybody else? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Melbourne New Hope Fire Department. Mr. Langston. Who is that?
I'm actually with the Mental Health District, Four Rivers Behavioral Health.
Okay. Do we have somebody with the Melbourne New Hope Fire?
I think he's muted, Judge. You're on mute.
I'm afraid I don't know the gentleman there. Looks like maybe his video's frozen. The gentleman in the ball cap there.
He's on his iPhone. It doesn't show. I don't know what's going on.
Danny Thurston.
I don't see him at all. There he is.
Bottom, but looks like he's still muted.
Well, my video doesn't show him muted, but either he's frozen in place or the video's not working.
Well, I guess we could announce the rate for him since we actually don't have approval on the rate.
I don't have the figure. Do you have it?
0.430.
All three categories are 0.0430 on real property, tangible property, and inventory.
Okay. I don't see him at all now.
Maybe they'll let me ride a fire truck since I announced it.
That's too bad. He came to the courthouse today to make sure he could get onto the meeting. He tried their best to do it. Judge, I have a telephone number for the chief. I could probably call him and just get him on the phone.
Okay, let's do that. We'll get it done.
Yeah, there's a phone number on the application.
I should have went to the clerk's office. Looks like they're having a watch party down there. Y'all got food?
You know, we always have food.
I was gonna say, Jeff's the caterer. He should have brought us something.
I should have brought food and came to the watch party.
Yes, sir.
Hang on, just a second. I'm gonna put you on this phone. Hang on. Judge, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, Chief Thurston, go ahead. They'll be able to hear you.
Okay, I'm Danny Thurston. Just to be clear, I'm not the chief. I'm the chairman of the board for the Melbourne New Hope Fire District. And we have gone with the same rate as we have for previous years in the past. It's 0.0430 on everything. So we have not changed it. We're just taking the money that would come in without raising any taxes.
You know what your compensating rate was?
I think it's higher than that. We've left it the same number for multiple years. I do not know the actual number, but we've left it at this rate for several years.
Thank you.
All right. Any comments, discussion on that?
Thank you for leaving it the same.
Yes, thank you. I tried to unmute that on my phone, but every time I pushed it, it wouldn't work. So sorry about that.
I completely understand. So we have these troubles from time to time. So, all right. Thank you very much, sir. Again,
all right, thank you.
If you want to stay on, stay. If not, thank you for what you do. We always also take an opportunity when we can to thank the firefighters. I think a lot of people do not really understand that the fire protection in the county is done by volunteers. There's very few paid positions, but most of the guys and ladies participate just out of willingness and a desire to help the community. And that's really huge. So thank you for what you do. All right, and then let's go on into a discussion about the Sheriff's Department salary issues.
I think we got one more, Judge.
Oh, do we? Oh,
No.
We do. I'm sorry.
Mr. Langston.
Yeah, McCracken County Mental Health.
Yes, my name is Kurt Langston, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Four Rivers Behavioral Health, which is the mental health taxing district in McCracken County. And the state PVA forms that came in showed a compensating rate for us for both real estate and personal property of 1.2 cents per $100 assessed value, or 0.012 is the rate. And that's the same rate that we had for 2019, and we are choosing to keep that rate. So we're electing the compensating rate, which is the same rate that we are currently at.
Yeah, I didn't catch the figure. Did you say 1.2?
Yeah, 1.2 cents per 100.
Okay.
So that's
both real estate and personal property. It's the same rate.
And that actually is your compensating rate. See,
it is. Yeah, I know that does
not make any sense to me. Yours could be the same and everyone else could be, but anyway.
Thank you for keeping it the same.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Langston.
Right.
Now, on to the Sheriff's Department salary issues. So we've been batting this around for some time now. Mr. Doolittle has done a great deal of work on this, trying to put the figures together. We know that we need to get them up to a higher rate. Our struggle is to find the revenue to pay the higher rate. And I spoke with, well, I communicated, I guess, by email with the sheriff earlier today, and asked him, in my view, we know we want to increase the wages. I think in order to do that, we need to be able to understand what all revenue sources are before we try to start increasing revenues from other sources. And so I asked if he would provide to us what the level of funding is in the forfeiture fund when the sheriff's department, we know, but others may not, that when there's a statute that provides when the sheriff's department has a case and they are able to forfeit under the statutes certain property like cars used in drug cases or just about anything, real or personal property, they are allowed to take that property and divide it out in certain ways to certain entities, and they receive a portion of that. And so in my mind, we should have a handle on what that fund is, along with, they also have a foundation, and the sheriff was smart in creating a foundation of people who are interested in having a strong and well-compensated sheriff's department that contribute amount of money to that, and for whatever the need may be. But it just seems obvious to me, at least, that we need to know what the sources of revenue are before we begin sort of blindly trying to find other revenues. Were you able to get that, Sheriff?
I do. I've got quite a bit of information to provide to you, Judge, at your request.
Okay.
So I'll just start with some broad numbers. The average that we've spent out of the drug fund to supplement various budget line items, excuse me, since 2012 has been $83,552 out of our state drug fund. This money that I've spent since July 1 of 2018 has totaled $232,721.86. All that's had a squeaky clean audit report. Everything that we've spent money on has been approved by the auditor's office. Kind of with that, to give you an overall historically, and we'll certainly continue to provide and purchase administrative vehicles, the detective vehicles, our drug division vehicles, transport vehicles from the drug fund. We currently have 11 vehicles that are in our fleet that have been purchased with drug seized monies. Additionally, we lost our line item, which I think was $10,000 for our special deputy program, which certainly offsets a large cost to the county and taxpayers with that volunteer program. I support that completely out of our drug fund. We supplement our training fund out of that, along with new equipment, ammunition, our Sheriff Citizens Academy, which provides educational ways for the community to become more familiar with the operations at the Sheriff's Office. Our canines have been purchased through the drug fund. Any veterinarian bills, food, accessories for them have been purchased through our drug fund. Our SWAT gear, clothing, our DARE program is completely funded through that, along with all of our drug buys, which take place on a very regular basis. So there is a lot of money that we have been and certainly will continue to provide to supplement to be able to, otherwise we would be falling very short in some of these areas.
And so if I understand right, then you had at some point, you spent 230, have a balance of 83.5, or that's an, I guess maybe I don't understand. You said that's an average 83.5.
Yes, since 2012. I was just giving that number as kind of in good faith to show that we have regularly and consistently spent a large amount of money out of our drug fund to help supplement, provide things that, quite honestly, we wouldn't be able to provide if it wasn't for supplementing that.
So the 230 was not spent this year, it's been spent over a period of years, is that?
The 230 is just under my administration. That was July 1 of 2018 to current or to present date.
Okay. But you usually run a balance in that fund of somewhere around 83.5 average.
Yeah, right now we've got just a little over $100,000 in that particular fund.
Okay. And we know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all right. I was just going to add that, that's definitely a fund that comes on the hard work of the men that are currently working in our drug division. That the income, so to speak, is all over the place. The drug traffickers are becoming more wise. I want to be careful on what all I go into there. A lot of this is a little more confidential, and I definitely would be more than happy to sit down with any of you men face to face and to explain some of this in greater detail. But bottom line is, whenever you conduct a drug investigation, it's unknown as to what, if any, monies are going to be seized as a result of that investigation for a multitude of different reasons. It can be very sporadic. I think that we've had a history of what we've spent. As far as being able to go above and beyond that, I would be very hesitant to commit a certain number just because it's an unknown. I mean, you'd have to be able to predict the future to know from year to year what you're actually going to seize in way of the drug seized money. But, I think that hopefully I've shown here since 2012 and certainly under my administration, we've not been greedy with that money. We've looked for ways to supplement what the fiscal court provides in a number of line items to make what's good even better. And I know the only thing I've not mentioned as far as the foundation, we did do that. I did get that. That was one of the goals that I had. We've been successful and fortunate. I think we've got around $14,000 currently in that fund. That is solely based upon citizens donating money to that. I've donated to that myself personally. So that's just, we've got a couple of projects in meeting with the board. Of course, that's completely controlled by a board that's been established for the foundation. It has nothing to do with the sheriff's office or the fiscal court for that matter. So any spending out of that would have to merely come from board approval.
Okay. Well, and we'll open it up for discussion. I just want to make the point that I want you and your troops to understand that there's no thinking that either of those funds are being used in any way that it's anything other than transparent and open and for the good of the department and within the constraints of the statutes. And we know that it cannot be used for wages. And even if it could, it shouldn't, because as you say, it's sporadic. We don't know what revenue is going to come in at what time. And so a recurring debt like wage that's pretty static for a period of time. Don't want to use a fluctuating source of funding. But it could be used for other things such as vehicles, like you mentioned that you have been using. Right. So that's what we're looking at. I think we're all of one mind that we have an outstanding sheriff's department, and that's one of the reasons why we're looking at trying to compensate everybody adequately. And then, of course, we have the city police department that is easy to compare salaries because they're a block away. And so any discussions about that where we want to, everybody, I guess, looked at Mr. Doolittle's figures there, and I know there's some thoughts.
Judge, I don't know when it's appropriate. I know at some point I want to hear, I would like, we've heard from the jailer and we've heard from the sheriff. I want to hear from Madam Clerk. regard to, I don't want to ignore the clerk's office. But I don't know if now's when you want to hear that, or if you were wanting discussions about just the sheriff's office.
Well, I don't know what's your pleasure, and we do have those, at least those three departments to discuss, and of course we have other departments as well. It all obviously affects each other. We can't look in a vacuum at what we do for the sheriff without looking at the jail, and then we'll talk about the clerk's office or others. Of course, we have the road department contract that we're going to discuss a little later on as well.
I'd like for us to plan a workshop here in the next week or so. I mean, I think that would be due diligence for all three: the clerk's office, the jail, and the sheriff's department.
I think that would be a good idea.
Because I'd asked Julie to give us a number from her. I know I only asked a couple of days ago, so it's kind of short notice. And we've got numbers from the jail and the sheriff's department, so I'd like to take them all three and have a workshop here as soon as possible.
Well, we made an attempt at a workshop, and one commissioner was not able to be present. And so I thought, well, you know, what's the difference between doing it at a meeting and doing it in a workshop? Thought perhaps we could get something done this evening, just in the regular meeting.
Well, I wasn't told to have anything together. For tonight.
I agree. We need to set a workshop. We need to try to set up face to face and get a printout of the salaries of the sheriff's office, which I think we have, the jail and the clerk's office, so we can just see in black and white exactly where we are. For example, it looks to me like we need to take care of the lower paid, needs to be our priority, but we need to look at it as a whole. And I think a workshop dedicated solely to that and a face-to-face would be good to try to do that.
Well, you want to just, am I hearing you want to just pass on this tonight, set a workshop? I'm fine with that. I guess I don't really grasp the distinction between a workshop and doing it in a meeting. They're both open meetings. I guess it could take some considerable amount of time to go through it, and we have other business, if that's the thinking, that we don't want to.
Well, I mean, they were prepared, the sheriff and the jail was prepared to do theirs, and I am not, because I wasn't asked to get anything together.
Well, I have not, I'll just be real frank about it. The sheriff's department is very inadequately compensated compared to other law enforcement agencies, as we've discussed. And certainly not to diminish in any way the value of the clerk's work, but we are risking losing our sheriff's department deputies, as we already have in some instances, to places that pay a higher wage. And one distinction, at least, is that in the sheriff's department, we send these folks off for the 22 weeks, I think, to be trained. And we obviously pay them for that 22 weeks. We get no benefit for that pay, except that it's training them for future service. And so that doesn't apply to the jail or the clerk's office. But we have, I think, a fairly dire situation in which we are looking at expending large amounts of money to train sheriff's deputies, and then the possibility of losing them to a higher paying job because other agencies look at our personnel and say, well, this person's already been through the training, we can hire them. And I understand there's a statute that provides a waiting period. They can't go within a certain period of time to another agency to try to diminish the effect of a county paying, or a city, as far as that goes, to train a person, and then somebody else in better fiscal position has more money, can then hire them out from under us.
We've been fortunate over the last few years that we've been able to, the sheriff's been able to hire people that already had that training, so we didn't have to spend that money to do the training. And again, I agree, we need to increase the salaries, especially at the lower level, to entice, to be able to hire people that do have that training and to keep people here. We're losing more to retirement than we are to other agencies. Once in a while, somebody will leave to go to another agency, but we don't have that great exodus, but we need to take action to prevent that exodus from happening. So I think we need to make adjustments on that. We need to make adjustments in the jail. The jail has a high turnover. I think 50 to 60% or more have less than 2 years experience over there. We need to adjust that. And then we need to adjust Julie's lower end salaries too, so she can hire trained and qualified people and keep trained and qualified people, because we just need to deal with all three. We need to make sure we can sit down and really focus on that at a face-to-face meeting.
I agree, and that's all I'm asking for. I absolutely 100% agree. The sheriff's department and jail, they need raises in their salaries too. But, so does my department. And I get it. My office doesn't perform life or death services, but we do perform services that are very valuable to the county. And it takes a lot of training to get people in here to learn how to do elections, to learn how to do what these frontline clerks do. And my concern is, here in a few years, you've got several that are going to be leaving and retiring that have lots of years of knowledge. And, if I'm not able to pay the lower end employees more, I'm seeing it right now since I've been clerk. I'm hiring someone and they're staying a year or two until they can find a better paying job, and they're gone. There is a strong divide between people that have been here, say, 15 years and above, and then about 5 years and below. It's just, there's a big gap there. And I'm very concerned about this, because you got to have people coming in that are going to learn how to put an election together, that are going to learn how to take in legal documents to record and do these frontline jobs. And unless we can do, something for especially the new hires, I'm very concerned.
Well, of course, everybody wants, and I guess you could even say everybody should receive more pay. And the folks you have, Ms. Griggs, I think are top notch, and they do a great job where we're seeing the highest rate. And the reason I think it's of a priority is in the, I don't know, what are we, David's on here, the jailer. We're hiring people at the jail for $12 an hour. And I've never been a deputy jailer, but I used to put a lot of people in jail as a police officer. And I know what the jailers have to go through for $12 an hour. And we don't need to get real graphic, I guess, but people might understand what kind of things go through there. And then the other side of that is when you start increasing people at the lowest levels, the new hires, then the people that have been there 2 or 3 years say, well, wait a minute, I've been here 2 or 3 years. I need my percentage as well. And so it can't be done just at the lowest level, because then those people that deserve to make more because they have some more experience and they're better qualified, better trained, they're not treated appropriately because they're not getting their part as well. And then the other side of that coin too is, we're all talking about spending here. I keep saying over and over, we've got to increase revenue if we're going to pay people more. And I keep hearing from some of you and people out in the community, yeah, let's pay everybody more money. But by gosh, don't raise any revenue. Don't raise taxes. There's got to be some fluff in there somewhere. There's got to be a little fat on the bone. And we don't have excess. We've even been deferring expenses. I think $500,000 worth of paving we passed on we did not do last year. At some point, people start hitting those potholes and they won't know what's going on there. And so it's just a big ball of twine that you got to get in and try to figure out how to equitably, fairly pay people that deserve more money. But when we talk about raising, so we're going to talk about giving the sheriff more money, the jail more money, the clerk's office more money. We're in the middle of finishing up, or toward the end of finishing up the union contract. They need more money, but we're not creating any revenue, and there's resistance to doing that. That brings about that 4% increase in revenue that we're allowed by statute to do, and that I'm hearing objections to that. And so I'll just tell you, it's frustrating to be in this job and be trying to get things done, trying to pay deserving people the wages that they want and deserve. But there's so much resistance to creating any revenue from which to pay. And we know that from historically, this fiscal court under previous administrations for decades has resisted increasing any revenue. And that's why our bond rating was decreased, because we deficit spend. And so it's all intertwined. But am I hearing that we want to skip on this tonight and do a workshop instead?
I've got more to say, but
go ahead.
I'll wait.
I want to respond to that too, Judge, if I might.
I'd like to too.
We have increased revenue, Judge. We imposed an insurance tax that'll bring in a couple $1 million at least a year. We reinstated the inventory tax, which is bringing in money. We increased the property tax rate. We took the 4% last year, which brings in more money. We eliminated the debt on the Genova building because we sold that building. We have cash in the bank that's going to be able to help us fund some economic development projects. The clerk's fees went up significantly last year, were approved by the legislature, and that is bringing in, I think if I remember, at least $200,000 to $300,000 more a year. I looked at the financial reports we got, and through the first 2 months of the fiscal year, our revenue has been, I think, 8% above what the average would have been for those months. So more money's coming in there. If I recall correctly, Mr. Doolittle told me that we have $200 million in new real property that's on the tax rolls. That'll bring in $200,000 a year. So I think we've hit our taxpayers, we've hit our residents pretty hard over the last few months in increased taxes and increased fees. The residents have been hit hard by the COVID situation. Many were unemployed for a while, or some of the revenue is down. And I think we can give decent pay increases without enacting and increasing the property tax beyond the compensating rate. Again, I think we have to be responsible in how we handle all this. mean, I think the bond rating is a concern, but I think we have to take care of our employees. We have to take care of our basic need, which is public safety and providing services by the sheriff's office, by the clerk's office, and in the jail. And I think that has to be our number one priority, to take care of those things. And if that means delaying building up a big reserve over 4 or 5 years, that's fine. Our reserve is significantly higher today than what it was a year ago. I think if I calculated correctly on the financial reports, we now have about $4 million in the bank that's available for the county. That's not including the amount of money that's in the transient room tax. We've got $4 million. In October of 2 or 3 years ago, we had less than $1 million. So we've increased that significantly. We have other projects we're talking about, some funding of the maybe some recreation complexes and some other things. But I think I think we're going to be able to fund the recreation complexes. It may take us longer than what we'd like, but again, I think we have to properly fund our employees to give good services. I think if we take a look in the road department, we have very low turnover in the road department because they have a union contract and their wages are decent. So there's very low turnover in the road department. So I think that's an example. If we can increase salaries in the clerk's office, in the jail, and in the sheriff's office, I think that'll reduce the amount of turnover we have. I think even in the clerk's office, the longtime employees, once they were there 15 years or more, get a decent salary. And the lower ones, we have to increase those to keep those people here so they can get those levels and stay on for a long period of time. While I certainly appreciate, we can't correct the ills of previous fiscal courts in 1 or 2 years. I think we have to do it systematically. And I think we can put together a salary increase plan that will give some increases in salaries in the jail and in the sheriff's office and the clerk's office. I think we can do that maybe around the first of the year. I think we have the money to do that. I think we need to take a look at how much money comes in from our insurance tax when we get our first payments in October. Again, that won't be an indicator of what it's going to be annually because there's some limits to it, but I think we need to take a look at that. And I think we need to allocate the amount of money we take in from our first payments in the insurance tax. I think we need to take that and use that to make salary adjustments.
Okay. Ms. Jones, you had something to say?
Yeah, I guess, well, now I have a couple of questions. So I want to make sure I'm operating on the same facts. And Mr. Doolittle or Madam Treasurer, maybe you can help me. So I think it was October 2018, we had about $700,000 in our reserve. And Commissioner Burlman makes a good point. It's almost October. What is our reserve in September? And is today's reserve a good comparison to October's reserve? Because we're about 6 weeks out.
Let me take a stab at answering that. It's early in September, so we've just closed September's books. We won't actually.
I mean, August.
I'm sorry. We've just closed August books, so we won't obviously close October until well into November. But yes, without exception, all of the months, and 1 month is not your reserve. That's just cash flow, and that's as low as our cash flow got was October of 19. But no, October of 19. Okay. So, well, fiscal year 19, calendar year 18. So
2 years ago.
yes,
Okay.
yes, we've been doing better on a monthly basis than we were a year ago, and better than we were doing 2 years ago. It is slowly improving. Some of that comes from budget cuts. Some of that comes from, the big thing is, we're just deferring maintenances, not buying stuff like cars. So some of it's from increased revenue, some of it's from just not from deferring maintenance.
All right. Well, I'm looking at the reconciliation, the financial statement that was given to me for this meeting, and then the cash balance of the general fund. It says $2,141,000. What do we add to that to get to this 4 million?
Eddie, I added in the road department balance and the jail balance. I took the cash balance of 7.5 million and subtracted out the amount of money that's in the transient room tax, the bond fund, and I came up with that somewhere $3.5 to $4 million would be equivalent to what the balance we had there. We got 2.1 million in the general fund, 800 some thousand in the road fund, 390,000 in the jail fund, and we have well over $3 million in those accounts. And another thing too, we're going to be getting a pretty good cash payment from the CARES Act if the grant that we're seeking comes through. So that could add to our cash balance, and we didn't have that big of an increase in expenses that we might get from that.
Well, can we use the road fund for salaries? We can't. Isn't it just for roads?
Yeah, it's limited to that fund.
Can we use the jail fund? What can we use it for?
We can use anything in the jail fund for jail expenses.
So we could use it for jail salaries.
Yeah, but you got to understand, this isn't just excess money sitting in those funds. Those are not going to exceed the budgeted amounts we need to run those funds. All of the funds, we import dollars into them from the general fund. None of them have excess dollars. In the three big operating funds, road, jail, and sheriff, we put money into them above the revenue that they produced.
Right. The road fund, the road fund that pays salaries, right? Can we transfer money in there to pay all the road expenses every month to balance that out? Is that correct?
I'm not sure what your question is.
Well, we transfer money into the road fund at every meeting to cover the road expenses, which includes salaries. So that amount of money that's in the road fund now, that pays all of the road fund expenses, including salaries. And
correct, except for some of those funds can be restricted that come into the road fund.
But Bill, you're adding up those three figures to get your, looks like, be more closer to 3.5 million, not 4, right?
Well, what's the LGEA fund? What's that?
Local government economic assistance. It's coal severance money.
And there's no restrictions on what that can be used for. That's another 123,000.
No, it's restricted.
For what?
Non-personnel. There's a bunch of rules associated with it. We're not free to spend it on whatever we want.
The bottom line is, whether it's 3.5 or 4 million, the bottom line is our financial condition is, it may not be where we want it to be, but it's greatly improved where it was 2 years ago and greatly improved where it was a year ago. If I remember, a year ago, it was 2 point some million we had, and now it's 3.5 to 4 million, depending on how you add those up.
Mr. Parker, what do you want to say?
Well, I agree with what's been said, but the number one thing with the whole with the county is the safety of the county, and we want to make sure we get the jail and the sheriff's department taken care of, but that doesn't diminish how important our clerks are too. So we do them all. That's the reason I wanted to have a workshop. We can get them all three done at the same time. I would like to use some of the insurance tax money, because when we raised that insurance tax, we said that's what we were going to do with some of that money, or I thought that's what we said. I spent most of the weekend going back over YouTube videos, and all of us said that at some point. So I'd like to see us use some of that money to help these three departments out with salaries. And when we do it, I'd like to see it on not just a 1 year deal, but maybe a 4-year plan with each department. I mean, I don't think we can afford to do it all in 1 year, all in 2 years, but I do think that it is an achievable goal to sit down and put our priorities in order and get it done over a 4-year period, or lay out a 4-year plan. And we do have a couple of bonds that are going to be up this year. The convention center's got one that's up in January. The jail's got one that's up. Those total about almost $500,000 in themselves. So, that's some more money we're going to have freed up.
Well, can I say one thing about when you're considering for my department?
Okay.
Of course, like Bill said, the first of the year, the clerk's office got a significant fee increase for recording fees. We hadn't had a fee increase in like 25 years. So it was quite a bit of money, and we're bringing in quite a bit more money. But out of each document that's recorded, like say a mortgage is $80 to record now, $10 of that is set aside, and it's strictly, they call it a clerk's fee. Its intended use was to be strictly for the clerk's office. If they want to use it for microfilming, for scanning, or for salaries, that's exactly what that is intended. Its intended use was for. That's just something set aside from the additional increase. So, I feel like that $10 that's being set aside for each document that's recorded, I should be allowed to use that for salaries. Other clerk's offices are doing that. And, I feel so fortunate that our office is able to turn over the amount of the money that we do each month back to the county. But that's what this $10 was intended to be used for, was specifically the clerk's office. And, to me, that's what I should be able to use it for, is maybe to increase some salaries.
Is that separate even in counties, like I said, to the pooling?
Yeah, that's in every county.
So it's separate. I mean, it doesn't come with the pool funds to the county.
No, I mean, I have to turn it over now. It's coming back to the county. But that's not, it was intended to be saved for the clerk's office. But any clerk's office that fee pools, that $10 is going back to the county. It's not staying with the clerk's office.
Right, okay. It's not like a jail fund from the it's not like the commissary funds where the jailer has sole discretion. The commissary funds, you really don't have sole discretion of that.
Right. And that's what I compared it to.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you
And
don't have sole discretion of it.
right, because the offices that do not fee pool, they're getting to keep that money.
Okay. Well, thank you, Julie, for that. And in other conversations with you, and I've had conversations with you and your employees over the last 2 years, along with the election board, and I share your concern that we'll be creating a vacuum or an absence of knowledge that's very, very important to our democracy, and that's understanding how to run your office. And I guess I'm in your office frequently because of my day job, and I get to meet new employees, and they're impressive and they work hard. And it seems to me that where your danger zone is, and that's what I'm going to ask that we all focus on, is what are the danger zones of your departments? But it seems to me, and I don't know, but it seems to me your danger zones is you hire somebody you invest 18 months into getting to know them and them getting to know your office, and then they find another job.
Making more money, right. And, you know, used to, it would be you hired them in, you knew they were there till they retired. So you've got all those years building up of knowledge. And, you know, I mean, you can't blame people. They've got to do what they've got to do to support their family. And if jobs come along where they're going to make more money, that's what they're going to do. And that's what we're seeing.
So the easy answer we could do is we're going to come up with a number and we're going to divide it and everybody's going to get a raise. But to be honest with you, I think the people have hired us, the four of us, to do a little more diligence than that. Right. And I think we have to identify what are the danger positions, those positions that Sheriff Carter mentioned about ensuring that we don't lose deputies. And I'm concerned about the turnover in jail, just like you guys have mentioned. I don't mind coming back for a workshop. I just want to come back for a workshop that is ready for us and ready for our time. I'm concerned that we spent so much time having a public conversation with the public about the financial situation of the county. And yes, we are making improvement, but it's kind of like, all right, well, we've spent a year making improvement. We have not yet collected, I guess we've collected we collected a full month of insurance income. Is my understanding. We're not far enough into that to a quarter to really have even a beginning of understanding what income that's going to create. Steve, if you want to speak to that now, that may be a better time, but I have more to say.
Well, they have to remit in October. So in speaking with the city, they said you really have to wait until November because people hold on to it till the very last minute. So we book dollars when they actually come in, not from the period in which they were intended. So we will collect our first quarter in October and November.
But when we started down this road, we had very little reserve, decades in which the fiscal court had not taken the 4%. And it sounds like we're all sitting here saying we want to pay the sheriff more money, we want to pay the jail more money, and we want to pay Julie Griggs more money. But I don't think, well, at least I'm not willing to put that on a credit card. We have to actually generate that income. And I feel like I've been elected to make the adult decision on finances. And one of the things that I don't feel like we can ignore and say, well, we're halfway there to where we want to be on a fund balance and pretend that we're not where we're supposed to be. You know, we know among the things that we talked about, yes, we talked about, Jeff, you're right. We talked about increasing salaries, but we also talked about the issue that we know that will happen with an airport if we want that expansion. We've also talked about the fact that our 911 service, Sheriff, I think I remember you telling me when I first got into office that our 911 service is archaic and an antique and is a concern, or at least other people have told me that. We have all mentioned that we want to get into the sports recreation business, and we've created a sports tourism commission, but we all know the limitations of that income and what it can do. But that's been an interest of this community. And I'm not talking aquatic center, I'm talking about sports fields. Bill, I remember when you were running for office in 2014, and in your 411, I just happened to look back at things the other day. You were under the understanding that the community wants more sports recreation and outdoor fields. We're not there yet. We still play soccer on a field that used to be a landfill and where you can't have running water. We are still, in our last budget, Mr. Doolittle, correct me if I'm wrong, we were still deficit spending in the budget we approved just a few months ago. Am I correct?
Correct.
So what that means is we're still operating, planning to spend more than what our income is. And we're hoping that the insurance tax is going to fix that. But even in our best estimates, it was $3 million. And I think nobody really was sure of that one. Am I correct?
Correct.
But that money's not going to come in for another, well, it's going to start streaming in, but as far as when we're actually going to be in a position to know that we're going to collect that annually, it's going to be another 6 to 7 months.
I think more like another 6 quarters. Because in this first fiscal year of having it, we will only collect 3 quarters. And then I think we will need most of the next year to figure out what this thing is really going to yield.
Hey, Julie, how much extra?
Sorry.
Eddie, you got a muzzle? Julie, how much extra money did the clerk's office going to bring in with the raised fees? What's the projection on that? Or have you haven't been a full year under it yet? How much so far?
I think the only month that we actually ever tried to figure it up was when we first started in January or February. And we turned over, seems like it was 35,000 more a month that month than the previous year. So it's going to be,
Julie figured it was going to be about an additional 30,000 a month. It's been difficult this year because of COVID with her office being closed for several months. So
well, that's an extra $350,000 to $400,000 a year we haven't had.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, that's a lot of money itself. That'll take care of a big percent of the raises we want to give.
It was a significant fee increase.
Well, and again, all of this is, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Grigg.
I was just going to say, now that we're into the year more, I can compare more months too to see how they're averaging from last year.
Would you get me that information, please?
I will. Mm-hmm.
Send it to all of us.
The other issue is we know that there's a revenue sharing agreement. One expires in February of 2021, so that's in about 5 months, and the other one expires in 2022. We know that that's going to be an annual loss of $350,000 of occupational tax income that we've always hoped would just continue. But unless somebody's got pixie dust, it's not going to continue because the city's not going to agree to continue it without some offer from us that is attractive on their part to continue it. And I guess what's frustrating to me is we've got a recommendation from management. And it's like we don't want to talk about the recommendation from management. And the recommendation from management is that we do this in phases, and that we take $250,000, and that cost us $375, or of course, if I'm looking at your number, the cost by the time we do the pension to do $250 will be $375. And we do this in phases because we know we've got danger zones. We want to fix the danger zones, but we can't fix it all at once. And I don't think we ought to derail the effort to leave the county in the better shape than the way we found it. And I guess that's how I feel.
That's the first time that we've talked about pension. We know that's looming out there. The state legislature is taking a pass on doing anything about pension costs, and who knows when they're going to do something and what they'll do. But that's going to be an enormous blow to any governmental entity, particularly, of course, we're concerned about ourselves. I don't know. I feel like we're talking like we're, because we're off a ventilator, we're going to go run a marathon. But you know, I think maybe the smart thing to do, I mean, we've been talking about this with no progress, and as Ms. Griggs would like to have an opportunity to put something together. If we're going to talk about clerks, raises, jail, and sheriff, I suspect when we do our workshop, then we would be hearing from other departments as well. Why don't they want more money? But so why don't we just set a workshop date? That'll give Ms. Griggs time to put some numbers together. If we can get answers to a lot of these questions that we obviously need to get, put together some figures. Mr. Doolittle's done, I think, a really good job on putting that along with the treasurer, Ms. Thompson, of where we are. We've got to be realistic about where we are. And of course, as we know, we've got huge opportunities in the sporting events, outdoor fields that are on the horizon. And we're not going to have the money to do what we want to do there either. So how about if we just suspend this for now, do the workshop? We can put it about a week off, maybe something like that.
Well, absolutely. But I'm not prepared to accept as a rule that everybody gets a raise in phase one. I think phase one needs to identify the danger zones, the jobs that really have to be adjusted. And then we have to plan and anticipate for a phase two. And so
I said I'd like to see it on a 4-year plan. I kind of agree with you on that. We found some common ground.
I agree with that too. We need to deal with the lower income employees first and get them to a point where they're not going to leave in a year or two to go somewhere else in all those agencies. And the jail is the biggest problem. I mean, we've all seen some of the videos of things that go on at the jail, and you know, for $12 an hour, I'd rather spill a cup of McDonald's coffee on myself than some of what they get thrown on them at the jail. So I agree with Commissioner Jones. We need to really come up with a plan, take care of those at the lower scale first, and then move up the line as we progress.
Okay. Well, how about if I have Vicki to get with everybody? We'll set a date in about a week off that's suitable for everyone. Have time to get all the figures together. Ms. Briggs can put her figures together. But I do agree, we've got to take these things in priority. And frankly, I think it's the sheriff's department and the jail that are hemorrhaging the worst. The idea too of just increasing the lowers. If I'm making $14 an hour because I've been in the job for a couple of years, and the new person goes from 12 to the same wage I'm making, I'm thinking, what's that about? I need my 20% raise, or 5 or whatever, too. I mean, that's just the nature of the business. So, any other discussion on that, or are we ready to move on? We'll get a date for the workshop.
You're gonna have all these workshops on the same day, Judge?
Yep. All right, so I'll ask Vicki to get with everybody, and we'll get a date where we can all get together and bat it out. Okay?
All right.
All right, let's see. Now we had, next was on for the jail salary, but that would eat that up too. I saw we had a jailer, Mr. Knight, Jailer Knight a while ago, but so we'll just put everybody, the jail, sheriff, county clerk, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't hear from others as well. Like money. But anyway, we'll figure out how to coordinate all that. So then we've got old business on the union contract. Mr. Doolittle has been negotiating steadily, repeatedly with the road department. We're going to do some executive session discussions on that this evening under the collective bargaining exception to open meetings. So unless we need to mention something at this time, we take that up in executive session. Anybody have anything they want to comment now on that? All right, so we'll do that in executive session here in a little bit. Let's see, and then we've got on old business. We have tabled the creation of our own IDA. Unless somebody wants to move to remove that from the table, we could just let it remain on the table as inactive at this time, since I think things are going quite well with negotiations with the city and working together in partnerships on various things. Any
We need just to remove that from the agenda, because if we have it, or bring it off and vote it down, or do we just leave it sit there? Commissioner Jones, what do you think?
I'd leave it on the table. It doesn't cost anything to be on the table.
Okay.
But I think the judge is right. We're making a good progress and working toward a plan that I think is going to work well for the city and county and economic development in the future.
That sound good? All right, we don't hear any opposition to that. There's Jailer. I don't know if you, we lost you there. Jailer Knight, you hear me?
Yes, sir. I've been here.
Did you catch that about we're going to do a workshop?
I did.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So we'll just leave the IDA issue on the table then. Then we got court orders. Madam Clerk.
Court Order A, it is ordered that a bid opening was held on August 21st, 2020 at 1:05 p.m. in the McCracken County Sheriff's Office. Said bid opening was for specified equipment services for 6 2020 Dodge Durango Special Service Vehicles. The 2 bids were received. Rapid Response 1 in the amount of $70,470 and Trent Grieve in the amount of $53,406.96. Bids were taken under advisement.
So made.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. B.
It is ordered that the bid for specified equipment services for 6 2020 Dodge Durango Special Service Vehicles is awarded to Trent Grieve. The total amount of the bid is $53,406.96, which was the lowest bid.
So made.
Second.
And now everybody understands that is, isn't that right, Steve? That's just for dressing out with the, I guess, equipment and decals. That's not for vehicles.
That is not for vehicles. That is for outfitting them. And because and Todd can chime in here, I think because we're buying a batch of Durangos this time, we did not have equipment and things to take off old Durangos. I think we're largely replacing Chargers and non-Durango vehicles. Correct, Todd? He's nodding. Or here's the sheriff is back.
That would be correct. A lot of the vehicles that's being replaced is the Chargers, and the equipment unfortunately does not, there's no way to retrofit a lot of that equipment into the Durango vehicles, which we're going with. Any of the equipment that we can reuse, we are, such as the light bars, but things like the console, cages, bigger expenses in outfitting a vehicle. It's unfortunately, there's no way to retrofit that to work. It has to be ordered new.
And so it's I guess frustrating that it's, but so that's almost $9,000 a car to equip them after you buy them. I don't remember what we gave. What was it? High 20s, what was it, 26, 8,000?
It's around 27 and some change, right around 28.
For 28,000 and then 9,000. So almost a third more to equip the car in addition to buying it. But it was bid and that's the low bid. So
I might add, that's the lowest bid we've had on building cars in many, many years.
okay. Let's see, was there a motion on that?
Yeah. I
So
have a motion
made.
for a second.
Oh,
Is,
yeah, I got.
is
okay.
any of this being paid out of the drug fund? I know in the past they've done some. Or is this total out of the general fund?
That was just an allotted line item. I think it was $60,000 outfitting for these vehicles.
Okay.
For the planned expense.
And so that's, I mean, that's some of the discussion earlier on about the drug fund money. I mean, we did plan for this in the budget, but and we heard from the sheriff that they've bought a number of cars, vehicles, whatever, for the sheriff's department out of the drug fund. But you know, I think in the spirit of cooperating and trying, you know, all this money. You know, you can say, well, just like Ms. Griggs earlier, you know, I forget, 10% or whatever, the filing fee is supposed to go to the clerk's office. Well, of course, we're going to look at that and say, well, so they're generating their own money. So, you know, perhaps that can be used for salary increases, but other entities, the sheriff's department creates money too in collecting taxes and fees and various things. And so it all goes into a big ball, and then we decide how to divvy it out. It's not as simple as I wish it were. Any other discussion on that?
Judge, I wasn't suggesting that they come out of the drug fund. I was just asking, since some of the cars are purchased with drug money, and I wasn't suggesting that it come out of there. I was just inquiring.
Okay. All in favor? I'm sorry, somebody?
Aye.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. All right, that carries. See, where are we? C?
It is ordered that $10,000 be paid to Mercy Regional Ambulance Service for reimbursement for fiscal year 2021 EMS grant for ambulance service grant funds.
So moved.
Oh, second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. D?
Pursuant to KRS 67.0802, number 5, section B, it is ordered that $3,755 and $7,925 be paid to McCracken County Sheriff Drug Fund, same being insurance claim reimbursements for a total loss on a 2015 Ford Taurus and a 2011 Dodge Charger, both of which were purchased with drug seizure funds.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, no. That carries. E?
Order to approve the August transient room tax in the amount of $244,293.53 to be dispersed as follows. Beta CDD, $72,245.51. Convention Center, $48,725.46. Sports Tourism Commission, $73,926.83. and escrow fund at $49,395.73.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion?
If I could, Judge, there, if I could just want to thank Steve Doolittle, Steve Urban, and Judge, your work. And we had our first volleyball tournament at the convention center this past week. And I don't know about you gentlemen, but I heard lots of comments from parents who were very, very happy with that facility and that project.
They had a good crowd. I went by there for a few minutes.
All right. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. F.
It is hereby ordered that pursuant to the authority conferred by KRS Section 69.210, 67.080, 67.083, and 67.710, number 1, the McCracken County Judge Executive is authorized to execute a letter of engagement retaining the professional legal services of the Denton Law Firm for purposes of acting as co-counsel to the McCracken County Attorney in relation to ad valorem tax litigation. It is expressly recognized that such professional services were proposed to the McCracken County Fiscal Court through the negotiated process in compliance with both KRS 424.260 and the procurement standards contained in the McCracken County Administrative Code.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion?
Judge, were you successful in getting other agencies to help pay those costs?
I made some inquiries into that. I think that if we need to go forward, it would be prudent to do it under the exception of proposed or pending litigation, because there are some fairly sensitive things that need to be discussed on that.
Okay.
But I have, and the answer to your question is I have, but I wouldn't want to go into the details of that.
Okay, thank
We
you.
can do it. We can do it in an executive session. I plan to bring it up and see if we want to discuss that.
Okay, thank you.
And if we're not prepared to go ahead and vote on that without that discussion, that's fine, and we can come back out. We can
No, I'm
discuss
fine. I'm good.
it. Okay. So we've got the motion and second. We can go ahead if you're comfortable with it without further discussion. I assume approve it, or we can put it in the executive session. That so I'll just call for the vote. Is it all in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Was there any opposition? No opposition, so that carries then. All right, and G.
It is ordered that a bid opening was held at 10 a.m. on September 9th, 2020 at the Judge Executive's office for a replacement generator for the Emergency Operations Center. Bids were received from DC Electric, Beltline Electric, GNC Multi-Services, and Jay's Electric. All bids were taken under advisement.
So made. Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. H.
It is ordered that the bid of Jay's Electric for the generator for the Emergency Operations Center is accepted and awarded. Said bid was in the amount of $37,500, which was the lowest bid.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion?
Steve, how old was the old generator that we're replacing?
I don't think we determined that exactly, but it was the same one that was there when I came to work in 2000.
Okay.
And it looked kind of old and not good shape at that time. So I imagine it's, I don't know if Randy, if we ever found out, but it's 25 to 30 years old anyway.
I thought we replaced some of those back in right after the ice storm, but I could be mistaken. But you're probably right. It's that old. Thank you.
And all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Aye.
It is ordered that the judge executive is authorized to execute an addendum to master services agreement for food service for Bracken County Jail. It is further ordered to record a copy of said addendum.
So made.
Motion second, any discussion?
I have a question on that, Steve. That this increases the fee by 3%, and that's supposed to be the cost of living. Wasn't the cost of living less than that? This consumer price index.
The jailer's still with us. I'll ask him to answer that.
It's about 3.5 cents per meal, Commissioner. And with our current inmates, we'd still be roughly $35,000 to $40,000 under our allotted budget on this new price.
But is it equal to the consumer price index? That's what the contract said.
I don't know anything about the consumer price index, but but that's what they increased. It was about 3.5 cents.
I just want, again, that's probably not a whole lot of money, but the contract says it can be increased by the consumer price index. And I don't think the CPI was 3% this last year. I think it was closer to 2.
What I was saying is 3.5 cents per plate, and that took it to $1.21, I think. So I didn't say 3.5%. I'm saying 3.5 cents.
I know, but I think the request is for a 3% increase. I know you said it's 3 cents, but according to the documents that we got, it's we request a 3% increase in the per plate cost, and that they're allowed to do that based on the CPI. And I think the CPI was around 2%, not 3%.
Okay. So you want to put that on hold, and I can get with them and check, see what that is?
Steve, what do you think?
Figure.
Steve, what do you think? Again, I'm reading the addendum that we've got. It says that they can increase it by the CPI. They're requesting a 3% increase. I don't think the CPI was that high. Again, it's only probably a few cents per meal, but when you're feeding 400 people a day, it mounts up.
David, I was under the impression the timing on this is not urgent. So if we want to make a couple phone calls and ask more questions, we can do that. I was just quick Googling and saw where the CPI was 2.3%. And I think mathematically, their increase is more like 2.8%.
Yes, we're not in urgent crunch.
I move we pass over.
What do we need to do?
I make a motion we pass over.
I'll second that motion.
Well, what I see is it says based on the published, quote, food away from home, quote, index.
Maybe that's higher than the consumer price index.
It's just reading, we requested based on the accepted published CPI. That's what the addendum says. Doesn't say anything about anything else. And it says they're requesting a 3% increase. That's not 2.8.
It does say something else. It says above that, if appropriate at the agreement anniversary date, we respectfully request a 3% increase in the per plate costs billed based on the published, quote, food away from home index for the March of 19 through March of 20. But then it does say what you say, that COVID-19 has driven the costs higher from March 2020 until present. We felt prudent to only request, we felt it prudent to only request based on the accepted published CPI So I don't know exactly what that means. So we got a motion and a second to, to table it till next meeting. Is that the
Yes.
motion? Okay. All in favor of that? Aye.
Aye.
I'll do that.
Any opposed? All right, we'll table it to the next meeting. Let's see.
Board appointments, I think.
Yeah, okay. Yes, go ahead. Board appointments.
And before I start reading this, I was going to try.
Bars the ball.
Okay.
Eberzabel,
What is it?
Eberzabel, please.
Eberzabel.
Eberzabel? Okay. I've never known how to pronounce that name. Okay. It is ordered that Susan Eberzabel is appointed to serve on the PJC Board of Trustees Committee to serve a terms beginning September 15th, 2020 and expiring on September 14th, 2026, subject to further orders of the court.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, no. That carries. Ordinances.
It is hereby ordered that pursuant to KRS Chapter 67, the first reading of ordinance number 2020-15 shall be conducted in summary format as follows. An ordinance amending McCracken County Ordinance number 2020-08 by making revisions to the proposed fiscal year 2020-2021 operating budget by modification of allocations pertaining to an increase in the receipts of the Debt and Economic Development Fund and expenditure account in strict compliance with the mandates of the Kentucky Revised Statutes, Chapter 68. The present ordinance makes revisions to Ordinance 2020-08, McCracken County proposed fiscal year 2020-2021 operating budget pertaining to an increase in the receipts of the Debt and Economic Development Fund and expenditure account. It is hereby certified by the McCracken County Fiscal Court that the present summary represents an accurate official statement of the main points of and contents of ordinance number 2020-15. A true and correct copy of ordinance number 2020-15 shall be made available for public inspection in its whole and complete form by the McCracken County Judge Executive's Office. Any person desiring to inspect ordinance number 2020-15 shall contact the McCracken County Judge Executive's Office via telephone at 270-444-4707 to make arrangements for the transmission or delivery of same.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion?
So Steve, on the bond anticipation note, the 660. So we're amending our budget to say we received that money in, and then we're amending it to say that we've spent $640,000.
No, we actually had to pay the fees too. So you'll see there's actually three things associated with it. So we had to pay the attorneys and pay the financial advisor, pay the bank to set the project up.
I see. All right. So the first three then add up to 660. And then the 663 is where we paid off the Genova loan, and
Correct.
then we deposited the 1.1 into the Economic Development Fund.
Correct.
All right. I'm sorry.
Those were two significant unanticipated events that happened in the budget that we have to amend in.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
This has already been approved by the Department of Local Government, so we'll be smooth sailing at the next reading.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, no. That carries. We have no resolutions. We need a motion to move into executive session. We've got I think there were three things. And Steve, I didn't make a note of what the third was. We've got collective bargaining with public employees as per 61.81.8101E. We also have future acquisition or sale of a specific parcel of real estate as per 61.8101B. What was it?
Litigation.
Oh, yeah, okay. And then, let's see. And then to discuss proposed or pending litigation, 61.8101C. Is there a motion to do that?
So made. Second.
All right. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Let's see. Are we potentially going to come back? I think there is a potential that the collective bargaining, I think we may come back and need to discuss that in open session. And possibly the litigation as well, take action on that. So we will need to go back into general session after the executive session. So we'll move into, I think, did we vote?
Yeah.
We did vote. Okay, we voted on that. So we'll go into executive session. Let's
No,
take
you have
about.
to vote. You have to vote. I don't think you voted yet to go
Oh,
in.
we did not vote. Okay. All in favor of executive session, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. We can have Vicki just handed me a note. We can get this taken care of maybe. How's Thursday, 12:30 for this workshop?
I cannot do it on a Thursday.
Okay. So we'll have to do it before Thursday then.
No, I'm saying the part that you have to do it at least by Thursday so I can advertise Friday.
Okay. Okay. Well, I don't know. Let's
I can
just
do it
send.
later in the day after 4 o'clock.
Pardon me? What did you say, Mr. Commissioner Barman?
I can do it after 4 o'clock on Thursday.
That work?
Thursday at 12:30 or?
4 o'clock Thursday.
No, you have the Senate Majority Leader or something.
Oh, yeah. I have a meeting with some senators on Thursday at 4 o'clock. We'll send out prospective dates and get a time. It'll have to be done before Thursday, I believe, to meet our timeline. But we'll get some dates and times sent out. All right, so let's take a 10-minute recess. It's about 4:45, so you meet back at 5 for executive session. All right, thank you.
I'm staying since y'all may take action.
Yes, please.
Okay, so what were you saying as far as, what are you doing now? Taking a break or going into executive session?
We're going to take a break and then move right into executive session from the break.
What time you want us back here?
Pardon me?
What time did you want us back?
5 till.
Okay.
Thank you.